All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division and what I consider to be bad news. It looks like Terence Crawford's only option is to re-sign with Bob Arum, and that more than likely means a one-fight deal to fight Josh Taylor and no Errol Spence Jr. fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan. Before I get into the subject matter of the video, though, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, hit the bell icon so that you can get notified of when we release more videos on the channel. So, okay, man, let's get into this. This weekend, some really, I think it's heartbreaking news for myself because I've been looking forward to and been saying, man, that I really think that there's going to be a fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. But Tim Smith, who was the director of communications, did an interview on the PBC and actually did an interview, said it twice. Once I think was on the Boxing Voice. The other one was on Premier Boxing Channel's channel, where they talked about the difficulty in making the fight with Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. And then after that, I called some sources that I had and asked them what they thought. And pretty much it was this. Look, Bob Arum pretty much holds all the cards when it comes to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is just really in a position where more than likely he's going to re-sign with Bob Arum on a one-fight deal to get the type of money that he actually wants to make. And the only fight that is out there for him in that regard is the Josh Taylor fight which would take place over in the UK, in which Bob Arum has been saying, for a while that he thinks is going to be the biggest offer and the best offer that Terence Crawford is going to get. So for me, I consider that to be bad news, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the first part of it is that it's just such a shame that literally, and this is the reason why it's almost certainly Bob Arum and almost certainly Josh Taylor, is that Terence Crawford is pretty much boxed in. There is now, with what Tim Smith said, if you take what Tim Smith says and think, okay, he's a director of communications for the PBC. So his job is to get the message out from to the PBC. We all know who the PBC is run by, and that is Al Heyman, right? And I'm sure to a certain degree, Floyd Mayweather Jr. as well. Whenever we talk about the PBC, I think it's real important to keep in mind that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a major partner there as well, right? But that since they came out and said that, the biggest problem is the finance and that Terence Crawford hadn't been grown properly enough to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight, and they don't even want to, or at least Tim Smith would say, look, I don't even think we should make an offer to the guy that would be insulting to him for the Errol Spence Jr. fight. And I can't tell you what that is, but I do know for certain, that like Gervonta Tank Davis's, the way that he structured his fight is that he gets $1 million guaranteed, and then he eats the rest of what he eats is off of the pay-per-view and off of the gate. So if you have something like that, where they would offer something like that to Terence Crawford for Errol Spence Jr., right? Considering that, it should be a bigger fight, that would be, that probably would be, an insult to Terence Crawford and not happen. So, Bob Arum, I think, is going to wind up benefiting out of this in this regard, because not only did the PBC say that they weren't going to sign, well, they said that they wouldn't make the Errol Spence Jr. fight because of the money. Matchroom Boxing has also said, look, man, he would be better off to go. I don't know where he's going to sign, but Matchroom Boxing isn't making an offer to Terence Crawford for any fights, because they're like, look, we don't have the welterweights, we don't have the people for him to fight. So, really, unless he and I don't know where else he would go to make the type of money that he's looking to make, other than the one option that has been presented to him publicly, which is the Josh Taylor fight. Now, I also think that it is a bad. I don't like the Josh Taylor fight, and I've said this on record. The reason why I don't like the Josh Taylor fight is I just think he's going to get set up out there in Scotland with Josh Taylor. Number one, Josh Taylor is a very good fighter, right? A very good fighter. He's one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world. He's also a guy who, when he fights at 140, although he fights at 140 pounds, is a very big fighter for 140 pounds, is a guy that I think if the laws were different in the UK, more similar to what they are in the United States, specifically, in Vegas, that he might already be fighting at 147. Not that I think that, Terence Crawford can't beat him. I just always in boxing put the corruption factor in there. And the fact that Bob Arum wants to make the fight, well, let me put it this way. I'll put the matchmaking in there and the corruption part of boxing in there. And the two of those things combined make me nervous for Terence Crawford. One is that Top Rank wants to make the fight. Top Rank, just the simple fact that they want to put Josh Taylor in there with them makes me believe that their matchmakers may know something or see something that allows them to believe that that is a safe bet to do with Josh Taylor. Otherwise, I don't see them cutting Terence Crawford any breaks by feeding him somebody that they think he's going to dominate. So the matchmaking aspect of it makes me kind of nervous. And then obviously, going to the scorecards and all that stuff in the UK with the UK fighter, if Terence Crawford doesn't get that knockout, man, you just never know what's going to happen in those scorecards when you go to somebody else's backyard and they're scoring, and they have their crowd cheering and all of that type of stuff. You just never know what's going to happen there. So the combination of Josh Taylor being a very good fighter, number one, the matchmaking on Top Rank tending to know what they're doing and knowing when certain fighters are going to win and lose. And then the fact that you have to go over there to the UK to do it just all kind of makes me nervous, man. But, this is a bed that Terence Crawford, that Terence Crawford is made, so he's going to have to lie in it. If he had chosen to sign maybe with the PBC before his last extension, there might have been several fights that could have been made there that would have led up to, to a makeable fight with Errol Spence Jr. from a financial perspective. Also, my understanding is, like Floyd Mayweather Jr. said, that he would love to work with him. Hope maybe there's an option for him to sign a couple fight deal, because I know sometimes, when they're trying to make a fight down the road, you can get a deal where they may say, okay, we'll sign for 2 fights or 3 fights. And on the third fight could be Errol Spence. So maybe the first one could be, somebody that, Keith Thurman, for example, and then go into an Errol Spence Jr. fight, and giving maybe the PBC a little bit of time to try to, sell you through either Fox or through Showtime. More than likely Fox, because I do believe that's the side that Errol Spence Jr. is fighting on. But, my understanding is that Terence Crawford isn't open to that either, man. So, I certainly hope that this fight gets made. If he has to fight Josh Taylor, maybe he beats Josh Taylor. I'm wrong. Well, I would favor him to win. It's just that it makes me really nervous. But even that situation where if he goes over to the UK to fight Josh Taylor and he beats Josh Taylor and he comes back to the United States, that still doesn't solve the problem that he has relative to the PBC, which is that, he's not considered a real a viable pay-per-view star. I think that the best route to get to the Errol Spence Jr. fight is for him to sign and deal with the PBC and get a couple pay-per-views under the PBC under his belt, and to get those numbers up, and then therefore he may be able to get the money that he wants out of Errol Spence Jr. But my sources tell me that that's not likely, and also consequently, Bob Arum probably paid his cards really, really nice, knew that there were really no other options out there for Terence Crawford, let him out of a didn't re-sign a long-term contract, and knew he would be coming back, for that one-off fight with Josh Taylor. But anyway, that's my understanding of the circumstance. That's what my opinion is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.